Welcome to Algebra 1 video on unit conversions. If you haven't already, make sure you take out some paper and a pencil so you can take notes. This is going to be really important to write down and memorize a lot of the stuff in this lesson. We're going to start off, you probably want to press pause and copy down the stuff that's here circled in green for metric prefixes, and then all of this stuff here for American units, and these two to convert between metric and American. If you already know some of these and you're completely comfortable knowing them by heart, you don't have to copy them down. But I recommend, if you're not 100% sure of yourself, then go ahead and copy all of these down and then resume once you're done. Okay, so let's go through them very briefly. To help yourself remember them, you can think about computers for these three. You might have known about a kilobyte or a megabyte or a gigabyte, and you might know there's 1,000 bytes in a kilobyte. So 1 kilo means 1,000. So a kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. A kilometer is 1,000 meters. A kilogram is 1,000 grams. You could even have a kilo bananas, which would be 1,000 bananas, or whoa, my dog's going crazy. Or you could have a kilo anything. Just the prefix kilo in front of anything means you have 1,000 of whatever that thing is. Mega means 1 million. Giga means 1 billion. So a gigabyte is 1 billion bytes. A gigameter is 1 billion meters. So these three prefixes mean very large things, 1,000, 1 million, 1 billion. And then on the alternative side, you can have prefixes that mean something is very small. So a centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. A millimeter is 1/1000th, and a micrometer is 1/1,000,000th. Now there's a lot of other ones. There's a couple of here in the middle that I haven't circled. There's one higher and there's one lower, and they go higher and higher and higher and lower and lower and lower. But I've just focused on the most common ones that are what are normally considered everyday knowledge that you should know, not just for Algebra 1, but just basically through the rest of your high school and college career. So it's worth to memorize these. I recommend you make flashcards. Okay. For American units, a lot of you guys probably already know some of these, but you may not know all of them. American units are also, at least the ones that I've listed here, are things that you should memorize. So you should all know there's 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, 5,280 feet in 1 mile, which if you know there's 3 feet in 1 yard, then you know that 5,280 divided by 3 will tell you how many yards it is, and that's 1,760. These two you probably or likely have not learned before. To convert between American and metric distances, 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. So if you know how far away something is in miles, you can easily convert to how far away it is in kilometers and vice versa. Or if you know your speed in miles per hour and you want to know how much it is in kilometers per hour, or say you go on a family trip to Europe and you see a speed limit posted as like 80 kilometers per hour, you might want to know, okay, well, how fast is that in miles per hour? So we're going to learn how to do those conversions. And another one that's nice to remember is inches to centimeters, because sometimes you want to convert things that are really small. And say you have something that's 6 inches. Well, if you only know this conversion miles to kilometers, it's possible, but it's really a pain in the butt to convert something that's really small, like 6 inches, using miles to kilometers. So you'd first have to convert inches to miles, then miles to kilometers, then kilometers to centimeters. So that's a long ways around. It's a little more convenient to know this inches to centimeters conversion factor. Time, I think you should all know these. If you don't, make a flashcard and memorize it as soon as you can. Okay, so I'm going to do some problems now and talk about how do you use all of these different conversion factors to help you solve problems and make comparisons. So using unit conversions to solve problems. So this is probably the more valuable part of this lesson. The rest is just writing it down and memorizing it. So in order to make comparisons, you have to have units that are the same. You can't immediately say what's more. Let's do the first problem here. 20 kilometers or 15 miles. Well, because kilometers and miles are not the same unit, you can't immediately tell which one is bigger, which one is smaller. You need to convert them into the same units in order to tell and make some kind of comparisons. So to do this, you can either insert the numerical value for the prefix. So that's one option. And what do I mean by insert the numerical value for the prefix? I mean, if you're dealing just with the metric system, that's one of the reasons the metric system is so cool. Let me scroll back up. If you're dealing just with the metric system and you see something that says 1 kilometer, you can simply replace, literally, instead of writing the k, you can write 10 to the third power, or you can write 1,000, like 1, 0, 0, 0. So whatever number you have, you can multiply it by 1,000 or write 10 to the third next to it. And then you've made your conversion and you're done. So that's why the metric system is so cool. All these prefixes are really easy to convert to numbers. You just write in the number wherever you see the prefix. But when you're converting between American and metric, you're going to have a unit conversion factor based on one of these two. So if 1 inch is the same as 2.54 centimeters, then 1 inch divided by 2.54 centimeters is exactly 1, has a unit value of 1, because the numerator and the denominator are equal, and anything divided by itself or something equal to it is 1. So if you multiply any expression by 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters, its numerical value, or its overall value will be the same, even though the number will have changed. So the number will change, but the units will also change, and they'll change in such a way that the overall value is the same. So this is what you're going to use for unit conversions. So which is farther, 20 kilometers or 15 miles? Okay, we have two choices. We could either convert kilometers into miles, or we can convert miles into kilometers. So let's convert 20 kilometers into miles. So 20 kilometers, we're going to multiply by the unit conversion ratio, and that's what I was talking about right here, unit conversion ratio. So 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Okay, so we're going to multiply by a ratio. 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Okay, so this is 20 over 1. In case you're getting mixed up on numbers outside of parentheses, you can always write it as 20 over 1. So the kilometers here, they'll cancel out because you have kilometers divided by kilometers, and your units are going to be miles. Okay, how many miles do we have? Well, we have 20 times 1 divided by 1.61. So grab your calculator, and you can type in 20 divided by 1.61. And I'm not actually sure what that is, but I trust that you can type it in your calculator, and you can get an answer, and that's going to be in miles, right? So now you can compare. Is that answer more or less than 15 miles? And I can tell you it's actually going to be less than 15 miles. Okay, so 15 miles is longer than 20 kilometers. Now, you have another option. Instead of converting kilometers into miles, you could have converted miles into kilometers. Okay, so how would you do that? You could start with 15 miles, and you could multiply that by a conversion factor. But now, because you already started with miles and you want to get kilometers, you're going to flip this thing upside down. So you're going to multiply by 1.61 kilometers per 1 mile. And the way that you can tell which is in the numerator and which is in the denominator is that you need these to cancel out. So miles here is in the numerator, so I need miles to be in the denominator so they cancel out. If I put this miles in the numerator, I would have miles times miles, which would be miles squared, which is not going to cancel out. So 15 over 1. So here you're going to multiply 15 times 1.6. So 15 times 1.61. And again, I don't have a calculator, unfortunately. But whatever you get there, that's going to equal some number of kilometers. And that number is going to be greater than 20. I know that much. Okay? So that distance will be longer than 20 kilometers. And I encourage you to type these in your calculator and fill in the values. Okay, let's try a different one. Which is more, 10,000 seconds or 1 day? Again, to compare these two, you need to either convert 10,000 seconds into how many days, or you need to convert 1 day into how many seconds. So I'm going to try converting 1 day into seconds. So 1 day, I can convert days into hours because I know that 1 day is 24 hours. Okay, so my days, let me choose a different color here. My days will cancel out, and now I've got 24 hours. Okay, let's convert hours into minutes. Okay, 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. Okay, so now my hours cancel with my hours, and whatever 24 times 60 is, that's how many minutes there are. We have to convert that one more time to get seconds. So 60 seconds are in 1 minute. Okay, so now my minutes will cancel with my minutes. And my final answer is in seconds. So seconds are here. So whatever 24 times 60 times 60 is, so I got 24 times 60 times 60. Okay, whatever I get when I multiply that, that's how many seconds there are. Okay, and I encourage you to finish this one off for yourself as well. Take a calculator, multiply 24 times 60 times 60, and see, is it more or less than 10,000 seconds? What's longer, 10,000 seconds or 1 day? I don't know. This is 3,600 times 24. I think a day is actually more than 10,000 seconds. Okay, let me reiterate right here. When you're multiplying by these conversion factors, when you multiply by 60 minutes over 1 hour, it's keeping the original value the same. You're just changing the units from hours into minutes, but the numerical value changes because the units are changing, so that overall it's equivalent. So we're doing equivalent expressions here as well. Okay, which is more mass? 500,000 milligrams or 5 kilograms, okay? This one is easier because we're dealing with just the metric system. So what does this milli mean? Milli means, scroll up and refresh your memory, milli means 10 to the negative third, or 1/1000th, right? 10 to the negative third means divide by 10 to the third. So what I have here is 500,000 times 10 to the negative third, which is the same as 500,000 divided by 10 to the third. And I know that you guys are professional divide by 10 to the third. Every time you divide by 10, it cancels out a 0. So 10 to the third is going to cancel out 1, 2, 3 zeros. So this is going to be 500 grams. Sorry, and I forgot to put the little gram right here. Because why? We were dealing with grams, so grams goes right there. Milli is this 10 to the negative third. So 10 to the negative third is from the milli, and grams is from grams. So our final answer is coming out in grams because we're getting rid of milli and replacing it with what the prefix actually means. So you can directly swap out the numerical value in place of the prefix milli. Okay, how about 5 kilograms? Okay, 5 is just 5. Kilo, what does kilo mean? Scroll up, refresh your memory. Kilo means 10 to the third or 1,000. So 5 times 10 to the third, and then grams is grams. Okay, what's 5 times 10 to the third? Well, 10 to the third is 1,000. So this is 5,000 grams. So what's bigger, 500 grams or 5,000 grams? Now that the two units are the same, it's easy to make a comparison and say, okay, that one is bigger. So now you can look at the original problem. What's bigger, 5 kilograms or 500,000 milligrams? 5 kilograms is bigger than 500,000 milligrams. Okay, so I know this wasn't a lot of examples or super in-depth. We'll revisit this in class and refresh your memory and go over it, but I just wanted to introduce and have you copy down what the important unit conversions are for metric, American, and converting between American to metric, and then also give you an idea of the two different methods for using these unit conversions. One method is multiplying by the ratio for the unit conversion, like for example here, or for example here in the changing the time from days to seconds. And the other important and easier way that you can use unit conversions is with metric prefixes. You can literally replace the metric prefix with its numerical value. So you need to memorize that milli is 10 to the negative third, kilo is 10 to the positive third, and all the other similar values. Alright, make sure you submit your form after watching this video, and I'll see you guys in class.